UP.
All right, good evening. We're on YouTube. I'm Faye D'Souza. Thank you for joining us. This is our weekly evening conversation at 8 p.m. For our viewers who are tuning in, remember, this is not a debate. The idea with these conversations is to have a discussion with the most informed minds on a specific topic to help us understand every angle of that topic so we can form informed opinions. That's the job. The job is not to get two opposing opinions and pit them against each other. That really, I've discovered, rarely ends in any sort of conclusion. What we're going to try and do is understand the issue at hand. And today, the issue at hand is fuel prices. Now, let me give you an idea of where we are and why we're having this discussion. In the last 17 days, there have been 17 hikes of fuel prices in India. Taking diesel to what is right now, that there is on your screen, this is the last 10 days alone, but imagine in the last 17 days, petrol has gone up by 8.5 rupees. Diesel has gone up by 9.77 per litre in Delhi alone. This is over the last 17 days. Now, both petrol and diesel are within touching distance of 80 rupees a litre. Now, here's the thing, specifically in Delhi, because of the extra taxes that have been levied on diesel, the price between diesel and petrol is likely to be the same. There's a 36 paise difference between the two. You can see that little bridge at the end of your screen right now. It's likely that that gap will be closed and petrol and diesel will cost the same in Delhi. Now, here's why I'm bringing this up. It's fairly easy to turn around and say, hey, you know what? None of us are really using our cars. Most cities are still sort of just coming back out of the lockdown. What's the big deal? It's not just about using your cars. It's about diesel being the active fuel used to bring essential goods into our cities. Remember, everything you buy, milk, vegetable, fruit, dal, atta, rice, comes in on the back of a diesel-fueled truck. If the price of diesel goes up, in this shocking fashion, the price of food will go up. So now you're going to ask me, isn't it linked to global prices? Yes, it is. Let me just put up on your screen right now what the global price of crude oil has been in the last 1 year. And we have this chart that we have made for you, and you'll take a look at it and you'll see what that looks like. So there it is on your screen right now. This is the global price of crude. Now you'll see between April and May, the second half of April and May, you'll see that massive dip that was caused. So there was a combination of a sort of price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia. There was a glut in the market, and then there was the lockdown. And all of that, the global lockdown caused a crash in the price of fuel, as you can see. Around the 6th of May, the Indian government then increased the taxes on fuel in order to make up that difference. Because this is what your fuel is made up of. The price of crude plus government taxes and VAT, and then you have your domestic price. So in order to bridge that gap, the Indian government added taxes. And what kind of taxes did they add? The highest in the world. At 69%, India has the highest taxes in the world on fuel right now. So there you're looking at it. Again, this is Delhi, because obviously there are different taxes that are levied in different cities. The base price as of Delhi for petrol is 22 rupees. So this is what the tail actually costs you per litre, 22 rupees. After that, you'll see excise duty and VAT. Now, excise duty is what the central government is taking from it. So that's 22 plus 32 rupees excise duty. The tax is higher than the price of the fuel. And then if you go a little further, you'll see the dealer commission on an average is about 3.5 rupees, and VAT on the dealer commission is what the state government is charging, which is about close to 18 rupees, and you arrive at a grand price of 76 rupees there. And this is the 16th of June, so it's a couple of days old, and we're right now close to 79 rupees 40 paise or 79 rupees 76 paise in the city of Delhi. So what happened was the government levied these unthinkable rates of taxes. The price, if we go back, and I'll just ask Arun, my producer, to put the crude chart back on the screen. And you'll see post that dip we saw in May, crude started to climb back up again. There it is. You'll see crude has climbed back up again to $40 a barrel, which is where it is today. The tax that was levied when it was down bottom low was never removed. So as crude came up, so did the taxes. And now we are at a lifetime high of diesel. Now, here are the questions we're going to be asking today. Question number one. Should the government be reducing taxes on fuel? Because if the argument is that we're linking it to global prices, so global prices come down, should fuel come down? Global prices go up, should fuel go up? So should there right now be a removal of these taxes, which you put to take advantage of the low prices, and you've kept even though the prices have come back up? Should the government be reducing taxes on fuel? That's question number one. Question number two, and this is the important one. Can the average Indian family, large number of which have been pushed back into poverty in the last 3 months, can that average Indian family withstand a hike in food prices? Remember, higher diesel means more expensive milk, atta, rice, dal, vegetables, and gas cylinders, because gas cylinders also come in on a truck. Can the average Indian family afford a hike in prices, given that so many have lost their jobs, so many have not actually worked in several months, and so many now have actually just walked back to their villages? Can they afford this hike? Question number three. And we have to acknowledge the fact that because of the lockdown in the last 3 months and the pain that was already present before that, the government's coffers are running low. Is there an alternative the government can use right now to increase revenue or to raise its funds in order to be able to do government kind of work, which is to commission bridges and to build infrastructure projects, to pay salaries and to run the country? Is there an alternative to the government to increase revenue other than the price of fuel? These are the three questions we're asking this evening. Now, let me introduce my guest for this evening. Mr. Ajay Bansal is the president of the All India Petroleum Dealers Association. Mr. Balmilkit Singh is the chairperson and the former president of the All India Motor Transport Congress, who speaks on behalf of the truckers and the people who own the trucks. Professor Santosh Mehrotra is a professor of economics at the Center for Informal Sector Labor Studies at JNU. Professor Aman Agarwal is an economist as well, who also teaches at the Indian Institute of Finance. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. It's obviously going to be a very interesting discussion. A note to my viewers, there are no politicians on this panel. Everyone here is an educated voice. Let me start by asking the first question. Should the government be reducing the taxes on fuel? I'm going to take this straight to Mr. Balmilkit Singh with the All India Transport Congress. Mr. Singh, could you tell us right now what sort of an impact this is having on the truckers? And as a result, what sort of an impact is it having on the goods that the truckers are moving?
As you rightly stated, that the reduction in the taxes should be reduced immediately. There is a daily hike continuously for the last 17 days. We have strongly condemned it. We have appealed to the government to immediately roll back for the survival of the transporters, farmers, and a common man. All our pleas are falling on deaf ears, and it seems the government is blind, deaf, and dumb. There is the record high prices of the fuel, whereas the crude it is lowest. So reduction in the taxes should be an immediate step. Every hike in the diesel prices have a cascading effect right from top to bottom. Transportation charges, but obvious goes up as the diesel prices goes up, because it is 65% of our operational cost. And if our operational cost goes up, it is but natural we have to pass in the same to the customer and for whom we are transporting, and he will be adding the cost of transportation to his product, and ultimately it is passed to the consumer. Common man is badly affected, the consumer is badly affected. Cost of all the commodities like vegetable, fruits, food grain, pulses, milk, medicine, FMCG product, raw material, finished goods, LPG, etc., will be going up. Multiple transportation is required from one point to reaching to the consumer. First of all, the raw material is brought to the factories, then the finished goods is made, then it goes to the warehouse, transportation is required, then it goes to the wholesaler, again the transportation is required, and go to the retailer, and then it is a chain and it goes to the consumer. So it is but obvious that the inflation cost will go up, and during the time of pandemic, when the common man is bleeding, the transporter is bleeding, and over the business is at lowest, we are operating as 50%. We were hopeful that the government will hold our hand and enable us to stand on our feet.
Mr. Singh, मैं हिंदी में पूछना चाहती हूँ so more people can understand this debate. आप मुझे एक बात बताइए, आपने कहा कि government बहरी है अभी. You said the government is behaving like it is deaf and blind and it cannot hear our voices. तो आपने किस मिनिस्ट्री से बात की अभी? आपने अपनी समस्या जो है किस गवर्नमेंट एजेंसी के सामने रखी है और क्या रिस्पांस मिली आपको अभी तक?
देखो, जब भी मैंने ये शब्द वापरा है कि शायद सरकार बहरी है, डीफ ईयर्स, तो इसके पीछे कोई ना कोई मकसद होगा कि लगातार 17 दिन से प्रधानमंत्री कार्यालय से लेके पेट्रोलियम मंत्री तक, हमारी नोडल मिनिस्ट्री, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट हाईवे, सभी से हमने ऑन डेली बेसिस वी आर राइटिंग एंड कम्युनिकेटिंग टू देम कि इसका बहुत भयानक असर जमीनी स्तर पर हो रहा है, और आने वाले समय में अगर कोई उचित कदम नहीं उठाए गए तो इसके भयानक परिणाम होंगे. हमने तो यह भी कहा था कि आज आपने हमारा हाथ पकड़कर हमें अपने पांव पर खड़ा करना है, लेकिन इस तरह लग रहा है कि गवर्नमेंट इज हेल बॉन्ड कि एक धक्का दे के हमें खड्डे में फेंकना चाहती है. हमने तो यह भी कहा है कि डोंट गिव अस द स्लो पॉइजन डे ऑन डे टू डे बेसिस. इट इज बेटर इफ यू आर हेल बॉन्ड टू किल दिस इंडस्ट्री, व्हाई नॉट गिव अस ए पिल ऑफ द साइनाइड. क्यों ना हमें रोज धीमे धीमे ना मारें, एक बार हमें जहर दे के इस उद्योग को खत्म कर दें. सोच विचार करना होगा सरकार को, लेकिन पता नहीं क्यों नहीं इसको अनदेखा किया जा रहा है. लगता है कि उनको कोई दिख नहीं रहा है, या वो सुन नहीं पा रहे हैं, या कुछ बोल नहीं पा रहे हैं. As you have stated that when the crude prices were all time high in the 2008, crude oil was $142. At that time we were getting at 34 rupees. In 2009 crude prices were 78 rupees, diesel price was 33 rupees. 2010 it was 88 rupees, crude prices we were getting 38. Since 2014, when the crude prices was 107, till the price was 58 rupees 97 paisa. And then 2015, 55 rupees was the crude prices, diesel price was 52. 2016, 52 rupees crude prices. And now excise duty in 2014 it was 3.56%. 2018 it has been increased to 15.33%, and 2020 it is increased to 32%. And the percentage of change in the excise duty is 795%. 795%. This is killing us, and immediately reduction should be in the way of the taxes. 255% is the payment we are making in the form of the taxes, as you have already shown.
Mr. Singh, quick question. दिल्ली में डीजल और पेट्रोल की प्राइस बराबरी हो गई अभी, मतलब 30 पैसे की फर्क है दोनों में. बाकी शहरों में शायद 10 रुपए की फर्क है पेट्रोल और डीजल में. Do you believe that this is particularly dangerous for truckers and for the poor, because diesel is the active fuel in India?
Absolutely right. Diesel is the active fuel which is consumed in all the commercial vehicles, even in the farming industry, even in the factories also. And naturally, if you increase the diesel prices, it will have a cascading effect, and all the prices of the commodity like fruit, vegetable is likely to go up. Serious thinking is immediate is required to roll back this daily increase. And we have been demanding since long back that there should be a quarterly review of the fuel prices, and therefore there should be a uniformity of the fuel prices all across the country.
All right, let me bring in the two economists at this point. Professor Malhotra, you first. Should the government reduce taxes on fuel? This can't possibly be oversight, that the government is so busy that they haven't noticed that they're throttling the trucking industry and the poor of our country. How much longer can India hold on?
Well, India has to hold on. There is no choice. There is, you see, let's just look at the fiscal situation of the government. What has what is leading the government to acting in the way it is acting? First, let us recall that for about 4 or 5 years, the economy was slowing. It was especially slowing from 2018 beginning onwards. For 8 quarters prior to the arrival of COVID, the economy was slowing. And while the economy was slowing, the government takes action to actually reduce its own revenues. What actions does it take? Let me tell you what actions it took. One, corporate tax rate reduction in one fell swoop from 30% to 25%, something that the government had promised 5 years earlier. In the budget of 2015, I remember distinctly that the government had offered to reduce the corporate income tax every year by 5%, by 1 percentage point. It did not do so. It waited until the economy was seriously slowing and investment was dropping to bring down the corporate tax rate. Was there any benefit to growth? Was there any increase in investment? Zero. What government lost was about at least 1 lakh or over 1 lakh crores in revenue per annum. Government's decision, no one can blame anyone else. Point one. Point two, suddenly in 2019, just before the elections, precisely just before the elections, the threshold for personal income tax was raised from 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs, meaning when you had 2.5 lakhs threshold after which you had to pay a personal income tax, there were 60 million taxpayers. When you raised it because the elections were due to 5 lakhs, your taxpayers, which already are extremely low in the country, fell from 60 million to 15 million, 1/4. So your government revenues were doing extremely badly in an economy which was doing extremely badly, partly because the economy was doing badly, partly because you cut taxes. Now, let's look. So in other words, what am I saying? I'm saying there was a fiscal crisis already in the beginning of 2019. And it was interesting and very revealing that while the government was claiming that the fiscal deficit was 3.4% of GDP, the actual fiscal deficit, as announced, as revealed by the Comptroller and Auditor General, a constitutional body, said that it was not 3.4% of GDP as the government was claiming, it was 5.68% of GDP under the circumstances. The government was seriously facing, revenue challenges. And now, post-COVID, the economy is collapsing in any case, so total revenue is going to drop. So, in other words, non-oil revenues are going to drop. So what course of action does the government adopt? It goes against its own previously determined policy that we've eliminated administrative prices. We will allow prices to fall when international prices fall, and prices will rise when international prices rise. The government is doing exactly the opposite of that and is raking in the tax revenues because it needs the tax revenues. It has no choice left. Now, you may say, oh, is it going to cause inflation? It is going to cause some inflation, surely. But let's remember that demand in any case is very low. There is not a lot of economic activity. The economy is going to contract in any case this year. So demand is not going to be that high. So government knows that demand is not high. If government knows that consumption of diesel and petrol is not going to be high over the course of this year and perhaps even next year, what sources of revenues does it have? Its GST revenues will fall, its corporate tax revenues will fall, its personal income tax revenues will fall, and it's not willing to borrow. It's not willing to increase the fiscal deficit. Look at the size of the fiscal stimulus, 1% of GDP in an economy which is collapsing. So you can see what the mindset is of the government. Let me stop there.
All right. So, and I want to bring in Professor Aman Agarwal to respond to this. So and I'm looking at this as someone who runs a house, right? And someone who has people who depend on the salaries that I pay out. And I know that everybody is struggling to just make ends meet. So while I understand Professor Mehrotra's argument that demand is anyway not going to pick up this year, I'm not looking at it from a demand point of view, Professor Agarwal. I'm looking at it from how will someone stretch that already tight household budget to accommodate this extra price, because we still have to buy milk, you still have to buy food, you still have to pay for the gas cylinder. So do you believe, Professor Agarwal, that the taxes should be brought down?
Fair, very interesting question, and I'm happy that you raised this debate today. First of all, I have been voicing for almost now a decade now that the government taxes have ranged between anywhere between 55% to 72% for almost over 2 decades. Not now. It's been going on for 2 decades where I have tracked. So it's not something which has been happening just now. It's been happening for 2 decades, and the government needs to create a framework where they reduce these oil prices in terms of taxes, which needs to be done. Now that is one component. Secondly, the issue is that you raised in your topic, which is about 17 times that the prices have been raised recently, which has been seen. Now there are a couple of factors which are responsible for it before I come to the question on demand. The first factor is the fact that the Indian rupee has been depreciating also, which is important because we import large part of our oil consumption, which is there. And the rupee, in fact, if you look at our last 1 year, has actually depreciated by 10% itself. And that has a major impact also. The second component is the fact that the taxes, while the oil price internationally went down, the government, not to transfer that benefit, actually introduced certain taxes and increased certain taxes. Now, those taxes have not been reduced after the prices started bubbling up again. So naturally, that impact would be felt. Third is the fact that we are currently in a deflationary phase worldwide, including India, meaning thereby that we are actually not having, as Santosh also mentioned about, the demand has not picked up that much, which I don't agree with the second part, which he says it will not pick up. But as far as of now is then, because of lockdown and restrictions, internal trades worldwide and within the country, the demand has not picked up. And as a result, because the demand has not picked up, there has been a deflationary pressure, and it's going fairly strong, pulling everything down. And that's where we need certain kind of inflation. So even if the government does not change the prices or the increase in price which has taken place in a short duration, that I'm looking at about a week, 2 weeks period, then it will not make major impact, because we are wanting some kind of inflation to seep in, even if it is unexpected, undue expected, the way we are seeing now because of oil or indirect inflation, as my colleague from the Transportation Agency and others in oil petroleum also talked about. That inflation needs to be there because there is almost no inflation as of today. Now the oil composition itself, the price structuring which is there needs to be looked upon. The government needs to take into account that we have made it functional, but most oil, almost about 96 to 98% of our oil consumption is actually bought from pegged contracts. Pegged contracts meaning when there was Saddam Hussein way back in the 1990s, these contracts used to be for 30, 40, 50 years. But after his disappearing and the contract with Saudi Arabia and Iraq disappearing, we had to diversify our contracts. And now the contracts for the last 15, 20 years range between 5 years to 15 years with different countries. And now we are not diversifying one country with multiple countries. Now, when they are these contracts, you fix a price. And there is a range that beyond the range, that price, or below a certain range when the price goes in the international market, will these contracts be rewritten? Otherwise, these contracts will stabilize and remain at that level. And that is why we found that the oil was not being picked up, and it touched negative in the futures markets about 2 weeks back itself. Now, this is where it's important to understand that 96 to 98% of our consumption is purchased at a stagnant, constant price. And that oil gets delivered to us after 2 months, anywhere between 1 month to 2 months. Because wherever we buy this oil from, it comes through ships. We don't have a direct pipeline connecting us. So it comes through ships, It takes about a month, month and a half, and then it takes docking, and then it needs to be refurbished. So before it reaches the market, it is between 2 to 3 months. So there is no question of this price volatility, which government actually, or the oil companies in India have been profiteering on in the past. And that is where they need to look at that price and stabilize that price mechanism, which is there, because what we buy from the open market is only a small proportion. You know, like you buy normal good items at foods. So that needs to be there. Now, the fourth component which you came on to was demand. In my opinion, and my studies in the last 4 months of various pandemics, epidemics in the last 100 years, including man-made crises or disasters, burnings of forests, even tsunamis, and even wars, situations where world wars have taken place. When I've looked at these scenarios, and from an economic perspective, not from a human perspective again, not from a human life perspective, when we look at these scenarios, we have found that within a span of about 4 to 6 months, there is an extensive demand, robust boost which comes in. And the reason is there is a large number of factors which are responsible, and this is not the occasion. If you want, I can come on to that. Okay. But that's where the demand will come up. So that's why I don't agree with Santosh when he says about later demand will not come. So demand will come. You are not consuming your product which you want. So you will consume after a certain time. As far as liquidity is concerned, which you also asked about the human people who are living, where do they have money to spend? The large part of India lives in rural India, almost about 70 to 75%. And with these people moving back, maybe about 72 to 75% today, lives in rural India. This is a cash-rich economy. They do not deposit monies around. They don't take on credit cards and loans. It's big cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Calcutta, or maybe, Chennai, Hyderabad, where people live on future incomes, on credit cards or on loans. Most of the rural India still lives on cash basis, and they are still flushed with cash liquidity to take care of uncertainties, which, because there is no government support in the past, in the last 70 years, which has been there to actually provide them for any uncertainty, whether it is medical, whether it is family. So that's why they have kept that liquidity buffer with them. Okay. So that's not a problem for the short time.
Yes, so that brings me to my second question, and I want to open this question then to the panel, picking up from what both of our economists have said. Can the average Indian family withstand a hike in food prices at this point? Now, these are not, like has been pointed out by the panel, these are not ordinary times. We've had a really severe blow dealt to our already weak economy. Millions of people have lost their jobs. Professor Mehrotra was having a conversation with us not long ago about the kind of unemployment, the shocking unemployment numbers that have come out, which is 1 in every 5 people almost in India being unemployed. At this point, should the government, instead of considering shoring up its finances, be going out of its way to keep people afloat and alive? That's the question. And I'll ask this, and I know that Mr. Singh is extremely upset with the lack of response from the government. At this point, Mr. Singh, do you want the government to be looking at, managing its own finances, or should it be at this point overspending to keep people in business, to keep people in jobs, to keep people alive?
We are concerned about our survival. That is the transport sector, which is the backbone of the economy. If the transport will move, economy will move. If the transport fields will move in a faster way, the economy will move in a faster way. And it is not only the fuel prices which are impacting us. It is due to the fuel prices, our operational cost is going up. There are other factors also. Tolls has been also increased recently during the lockdown period. All the components, all the input costs like tires, spares, oil, loops, or administrative cost, there is a driver shortage. And if there's a shortage, then you have to pay higher wages to them. It all accounts to a higher operational cost. And whether it will be viable for us to run our business, what I feel that the demand is low, as stated by the leading economist and professor also. 50% demand is there. 65% of the vehicle are ideal due to the fuel hike, and there is no demand. Whether we will be able to sustain our operations, there is a lot of resentment on the ground due to the adverse policies of the government. And what we feel that in the coming days, in the coming months, we will be left with no other alternative but to shut our business. We will not able to ply because there will be no viability at all.
What do you mean by there is no viability? You mean that per kilometer you are not making any money on that trip?
Definitely. As the demand are low, the whatever the cost, additional input cost due to the fuel prices, driver shortage, tires, toll, etc. At present scenario, we are unable to pass on. The hike is only of 10% variation in the transportation cost. So what we feel that due to the demand and other operational cost, the business will not be viable. Otherwise, there should be a pickup in the demand. The freight rate should be go up, or otherwise the operational cost should be reduced.
Okay, all right. That's a very, very good point. Professor Mehrotra, I'm going to come back to you, to the point that you had made earlier about demand. When people like Mr. Singh says we will have to shut business and just go home because it's just no longer viable to run a trucking business anymore, do you think at this point, even though you made a very strong argument that the government needs to, or government is at least focused on its finance, those are the hints we've picked up. Should they at this point be focused on humanitarian, work? Because like other countries just opening up their coffers and saying, you know what, we will just make sure everyone is okay. We've not seen enough of that happen. Can lowering these prices be the way in which this government does that?
You ask a complicated question, but let me put give a short answer to you. No question about it that the government should be focused on ensuring everything such that businesses represented by Malkit Singh Balji actually continue to run. Because these are the people who provide the jobs. When the jobs are there, then that's when the demand is created. So one would take it for granted that a government's job is to ensure that there is demand in the economy. But the government does not believe that. The government is all that it has done in its 21 lakh crores, of which about 19 lakh crores is in the form of bank loans and liquidity and guarantee. It is not in the form of providing a fiscal stimulus, which means putting money into the hands of people which they would be able to spend, which is the reason why the All India Manufacturers Association, it's in a last program that you did, where I was participating, told us in a survey that they had just completed, and they survey a very large number of enterprises. They said 1/3 of our MSMEs are about to close. They are saying that we are about to close, and Malkit Singh Balji is representing some of those. This is the point. So unless, I mean, and this is actually answering to your last question, which you will probably bring up, can we do something to sort of raise demand? I'm anticipating that. Yes, of course it has to. It has not done so far, and which is the reason why you will continue to see the economy spinning out of control in a downward spiral. There is just no question about it. There will not only be a contraction of the economy in fiscal 21, there is likely to be barely coming back to, barely in the latter half of fiscal 2022. I mean, the way the government is behaving, it is so myopic, it is unbearable, it is unbelievable. This is what I have to say. I won't say any more than that at this moment, because I would then have anticipated your third question.
All right. Now, before we go to our last question, which is where can the money alternatively come from the government? And I just want to point out to what Professor Mehrotra said, not only should the government be cutting prices on fuel at this point, it also should be simply distributing hard cash in the bank accounts of individuals so they have money to run their houses. This should have been done not as of yesterday, but it should have been done as of 3 months ago when the lockdown was announced. Where basically we should have told people that here, we know your Jan Dhan account, we know your Aadhaar number, we know your mobile number, which is what the government has been telling us for the last 3 years. We're going to put 5,000 rupees in your bank accounts once a month, use it to run your house, use it to feed your children, use it to make up for the fact that you're not working right now. And that is how the rest of the world has done it. But in India, we have not. And I want to point this out, and I've said this numerous times, and I think we need to remind ourselves, COVID happened to everybody in the world. Every country faced the same virus. We didn't have a different virus. We had the same virus. Only India reported the humanitarian crisis that we did.
Correct.
No sub-Saharan Africa had a crisis like this. None of our Asian neighbors had a crisis like this. Just us. We did something wrong. And as citizens, we have to realize that we did something wrong. And we have to demand better from our government. Mr. Ajay Bansal joins me right now. He is the president of the Petrol Dealers Association, the All India Petrol Dealers Association. Mr. Bansal, good evening. We were having a conversation before you joined us on whether or not the government should be cutting those taxes right now, as of tonight. What is your opinion on behalf of your association? Mr. Bansal?
I think he was on.
I would like to say a few things.
Just 1 second. I'm just going to check on Mr. Bansal, or we'll give Mr. Bansal a couple of minutes to be able to come in. Go ahead, Professor Agarwal, go ahead.
Yes, a very interesting point you made about, both Santosh and you talked about in terms of delivering DBTs into people's account. My interesting part is, would that make the transporter lobby happy? Would their incomes go up with people having more money in their pockets? 5,000 rupees, do you think the transporter lobby would be able to, or the transporters will be able to get money out of it? No. They will only get money when they... No, let me complete. Faith.
I have to respond.
Let me complete first.
Okay.
People getting 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 rupees, would that make the transporter functional, what he's talking about? And everybody needs liquidity and structuring today. Everybody needs survival today. All organizations, whether small, large, medium size, all of them have their own problems and they're looking for liquidity. And that's what the government has tried to do in this package, is to provide that liquidity that their survival benefit can go up. It's not functioned perfectly well, I agree. They're not getting the benefit, I agree to that. Most of them are not getting the benefit at all. But does those 3,000 rupees, what has direct benefit transfer to do with petrol prices today? Can that direct benefit transfer?
It does.
Sir, that 5,000 rupees, you think they'll buy petrol from there?
Okay.
What does petrol to do with direct benefit transfers? You're talking all wrong. You have a certain agenda in your mind which you're bringing it forth here. What is oil to do with the direct benefit transfers here?
Okay, let me answer.
I can understand medicine. I can understand food.
All right, Professor Agarwal, let me answer what I meant. I meant this: if the people who have not been paid salaries for 3 months, who then wrapped up their stuff and walked out of sheer fear of hunger, if they had 5,000 rupees, they would buy rice, they would buy atta, they would buy a little bit of cooking oil, and they'd be able to feed their children. Now, by the merit of them buying rice, atta, vegetable, dal to feed their children, the truckers would have demand for something to go up.
Correct.
No.
Simple macroeconomics. Macroeconomics.
I'm sorry. This is not 101.
Macroeconomics 101.
Just allow Professor Mehrotra to answer.
Please.
Correct. I mean, this is the problem. When people, it's obvious that there are people in government who don't understand macroeconomics 101. If they did, we wouldn't be in the mess that we are in. You understood, Faye, and you put it brilliantly. You understood entirely what I was arguing. You put money into people's hands, and it creates demand for all the goods that Malkit Singh Bal's transporters supply. It's very simple macroeconomics. Not enough people, forget about this panel, not enough people in government understand this. That's what matters. If they understood this, I think we would be in a very different situation. Let me not say any more. There's no point in continuing this discussion.
Yes, I want to actually ask Mr. Singh this question, since he is the Transport Association. So we technically, I apologize, we should have come to you first with that question. If there was a direct benefit of 5,000 rupees in everybody's accounts, Mr. Singh, would that have changed the situation for transporters like yourself?
As rightly stated by Professor Santosh, that if the people have the money in hand, it will create the demand. And if there is a demand, there will be the transportation will be there. And if the demand is there, transportation will be there, and we will able to work, and the entire economy will work. So definitely, if people have the money, as stated by Professor Agarwal, that it will take 4 to 6 months. Why it will take so long? Why don't government do something drastic?
Yes, very
that
good question.
that it should be done within a month or within a 2 months time. So demand should be created. What I have also stated, that demand is at low, 65% vehicle are ideal. Demand should increase and everything will
Hello.
move
Hello.
smoothly.
Is it
Yes.
okay?
All right. Let me
Am
just check if I have
audible?
Mr. Bansal. Mr. Bansal, can you hear me? All right. We don't seem to have him. All right. Professor Agarwal, do you want to respond?
No.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
I
okay.
wanted
He's
to
on
just
mute.
say,
Yeah,
very,
go ahead,
very
Bansal
good
ji.
question, which, please go ahead.
Professor Agarwal, go ahead. Professor Agarwal, go ahead.
Thank you. Very good question Mr. Singh asked about. You know, the fact is 4 to 4 months is because of the fear psychosis which people have. It is not because of their not having money or the capacity to buy is not there. It is because of the fear psychosis which is going to be contained. People are not wanting to move out of the houses because of Corona. The demand will only pick up when people start buying things in the market. The liquidity is there with people. Imagine the amount of cash which has been withdrawn, which has been reported by RBI in the months of January, February, March. It is 4 times of liquidity present in the current scenario in the Indian economy than what was demonetized. Now imagine when that kind of cash is there, do you think people don't have cash or they don't have the purchasing power to buy it? It is not that. It is that there is a fear psychosis. There are warnings. Societies are locked every second day because of COVID. Housings are locked. Where will they buy from? How will they go about buying? Even if you give them 5,000 rupees, how will they go about buying? They cannot be allowed to move from one place to the other. It is important that liquidity is seeped into the transport agency because they deal with mandis, large mandis which buy from them. Normal consumer doesn't buy from a transporter, does not take offload of their products from the transporter. They need liquidity as of now to actually run their business so that in due course when demand picks up, they are able to suffice and actually pay back the liquidity which they have seeped into their business in times of difficulty. And this is where I'm trying to say DBT does not have, this has nothing to do with price oil. We should have talked about what you raised about the issue, about family budgets being impacted and not about DBT having an impact on price of oil. I'm sorry, these two areas are two different connects which are there, given the fear psychosis which is in the minds of people. Thank you.
Okay, I'm told by my producer that Ajay Bansal can now hear me. Mr. Bansal, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry to keep you waiting. I want to understand from you our first 2 questions, which we missed your comment on. Should the government be bringing down the prices on fuel? And can Indian families take the rise in commodity prices that this increased price of fuel will cost? I want to understand from the Petrol Dealers Association, what is the opinion on this price right now?
See, as a petrol association, हम लोगों ने day 1 से ही कहा है कि पेट्रोल डीजल को हमेशा किसी भी सरकार ने सिर्फ एक रेवेन्यू कलेक्शन के लिए सबसे आसान जरिया माना है। कोई भी सरकार ने ये नहीं सोचा कि हमको ये रेवेन्यू किसी और जगह से भी मिल सकता है। पेट्रोलियम सेक्टर का ये दुर्भाग्य है कि पेट्रोलियम सेक्टर क्योंकि एक लोगों की आम जरूरत है, उसको वो सोचते हैं कि यहाँ से ही उसको एक शॉर्ट और एक जो उसकी अपनी डिमांड है, जितनी उसको चाहिए, वो एक शॉर्ट 100% एक रिकवरी के लिए उसको ये साधन पेट्रोलियम सेक्टर लगता है, किसी भी सरकार का, वो चाहे वो स्टेट की सरकार हो वैट के तौर पे, चाहे वो केंद्र की सरकार हो। तो पहले तो सरकारों को ये सोचना होगा कि जो हमारी सरकार की अपनी जो बजटरी जो रिक्वायरमेंट है या जो उसका एक आकलन है उसको वो कहीं और से पूरा करे। दूसरा सबसे बड़ी बात है कि जब सरकार, मैं हैरान हूं इस बात को देख के कि जो नॉर्मल आपके चाहे वो अपोजिशन लीडर्स हैं, चाहे वो हमारी अभी प्रेजेंट गवर्नमेंट पॉलिटिकल पार्टी है, ये सब लोग जीएसटी में लाने की जो है बात करते हैं। और जब जीएसटी में लाने की बात सब कर रहे हैं तो जीएसटी में आ क्यों नहीं रहा है? इसको ये कहा जाता है क्योंकि जीएसटी काउंसिल जो है उन लोगों ने एक्साइज में लीकर और पेट्रोलियम प्रोडक्ट्स को बाहर रखा है, उनको 2 चीजें छोड़ने का अधिकार दिया गया है। तो सरकार जब 370 हटा सकती है और 370 जैसी एक बड़ी एक अहम फैसला लेके इतना बड़ा संविधान में फर्क ला सकती है, तो जीएसटी में पेट्रोलियम प्रोडक्ट्स को लाकर एक अच्छा एक बड़ा स्टैंड क्यों नहीं खड़ी करती है? ये सरकार जानी जाती है एक स्ट्रॉन्ग एक्शन लेने के लिए। तो जीएसटी एक स्ट्रॉन्ग एक्शन था, तो मेरे ख्याल से सबसे बड़ा जीएसटी का अगर जीएसटी का इम्पैक्ट है तो जीएसटी में पेट्रोलियम प्रोडक्ट को लाकर जीएसटी का असली स्ट्रॉन्ग इम्पैक्ट लाना वो जरूरी है। सेकेंडली, ये जो जीएसटी में लाना सबसे जो सबसे आप जैसे कह रहे हैं इम्पैक्ट की बात कर रहे हैं कि जो कंज्यूमर्स पे जो इनडायरेक्ट ट्रांसपोर्टेशन के इफेक्ट या एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर के लिए जो ये डीजल के दाम बढ़ने का इम्पैक्ट आएगा, ये बड़ी बात है। तो अब ये पिछले हमने कई दशकों से देखा है कि हमारा डीजल का और पेट्रोल का प्राइस करीबन 13 रुपीज 14 रुपीज का था, जो घटकर आज 60 पैसा 70 पैसा रह गया। ये अपने आप में एक बहुत अलार्मिंग पोजीशन है कि हमारा जो डीजल जिस सेक्टर के लिए ट्रांसपोर्टेशन और एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर के लिए सस्ता रखा जाता था, आज वो पेट्रोल के दाम पे साथ आए खड़ा हो गया है। और उसको कम से कम एटलीस्ट सरकार कम से कम डीजल को जीएसटी में लाने के लिए एक पहल करे, और जैसे 370 में उसने अपना एक स्ट्रॉन्ग एक्शन लिया था, जीएसटी काउंसिल को कंपेल करे, स्टेट्स को मनाए। क्योंकि मुझे किसी स्टेट वाला या मैं खुद चीफ मिनिस्टर से मिला हूं कहीं, जबकि हम देखते हैं कि एक पेट्रोल पंप को एक झटके में खत्म हो जाता है करोड़ों रुपए का उसका बिजनेस। क्यों? क्योंकि एक दूसरे स्टेट के अंदर 6 या 7 रुपए का फर्क आ जाता है। आप ये देखें, दिल्ली के अंदर 7 रुपया डीजल 6 रुपया महंगा है बनिस्बत इसके यूपी के। सो ये पैरिटी से हमारा आपस का जो ट्रेड है वो भी खराब होता है। जो आदमी यहाँ से दिल्ली से चलता है वो भाड़ा अपना उस यूपी के दाम के मुताबिक ज्यादा बढ़ा देता है, जबकि दिल्ली में नहीं, यूपी में कम है। तो आप ये देखें कि अब इस चीज को पैरिटी में वन नेशन वन रेट एंड जीएसटी में लाकर इसको डीजल को सस्ता किया जाए, यही आज के समय की डिमांड है। और मेरे ख्याल से यही एक बहुत बड़ा बेनिफिट होगा, चाहे वो नीचे की जो मार्केट है, चाहे वो किसी प्रकार के आम हमारे कॉमन आदमी के लिए कोई सम्मान की बात है। इन सब चीजों के लिए हम लोगों ने एज ए एसोसिएशन इस बात के लिए सब चीफ मिनिस्टर से मुलाकात की, फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर से मुलाकात की कि वन नेशन, जम्मू कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी तक वन नेशन वन रेट एटलीस्ट फॉर डीजल शुड बी देयर। क्योंकि मैं भी अपने डीलर के तौर पे 70% मेरा भी जो पेट्रोल डीजल बिकता है उसमें डीजल 70% है। मेरी भी ग्राहक जो है वो डीजल के ज्यादा है, मेरी भी कमाई सिर्फ डीजल से होती है। दूसरा, डीजल एक बैकबोन है हमारे इकोनॉमी की। उस चीज को ध्यान में रखकर हम लोगों ने अपनी तरफ से, अभी भी हम लोगों को मंथना चल रही है, अभी भी हम डिमांड कर रहे हैं, स्टेट से भी कह रहे हैं और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट से भी कह रहे हैं।
कोई रिस्पांस आई मिस्टर बंसल, आपकी एसोसिएशन, हैव यू हर्ड एनी रिस्पांस फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट?
देखिए, मैं आपको मजाक के तौर पे बताता हूं, मेरे साथ हमारे मुरली देवरा जी थे, तो हमने एक स्ट्राइक की थी, जो हमने 2-3 उनसे डिमांड रखी थी। एक डिमांड रखी थी कि साहब हमारा जो है, एक तो हमारा जो आप कमीशन थोड़ा बढ़ा दीजिए, उन्होंने कहा थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा, उसके लिए कमेटी बना देते हैं, और एक कहा कि वन नेशन रेट जीएसटी में ले आइए साहब। तो उन्होंने कहा हाँ ये मैं मानता हूँ, इसके लिए मैं आपको 100% लेता हूँ कि मेरी तरफ से अप्रूव है। यही हमने हमारे प्रेजेंट मिनिस्ट्री को कहा, मंत्री ने कहा कि मैं आपकी सब डिमांडें मान के छोड़ दीजिए, लेकिन ये जीएसटी वाली डिमांड मानता हूँ। तो हमारी ये डिमांड रही है हर एक उस पे, और सबने मानी है। लेकिन वही बात है कि वो हुई कभी नहीं, वो क्योंकि सरकार करने के लिए असमर्थ है, वो कर नहीं पाएगी, क्योंकि 28% का जो जीएसटी का स्लैब है।
ये आपने मिस्टर बंसल बहुत अच्छी बात बोली, वन नेशन वन प्राइस। एंड आई जस्ट वांट टू पॉइंट आउट सेंट्रल एक्साइज ड्यूटी ऑन पेट्रोल, जो 22 रुपीज की जो पेट्रोल आती है, डीजल 22.93 बेस प्राइस है अभी। Central excise, which is the central government tax, is 32 rupees per liter on petrol and 31.8 rupees per liter on diesel. मतलब टैक्स जो है वो तेल की दाम से भी ज्यादा है,
बेसिक कॉस्ट से भी ज्यादा है। ये पहली बार है।
ये जो वैट है, जो हमारी ऑडियंस देख सकते हैं, जो एडिशनल वैट इंक्लूडिंग डीलर कमीशन, ये जो नीचे आप देख रहे हैं लास्ट सेकंड कॉलम, वहां पे दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट की जो वैट 17.7 per liter on petrol and 17.6 per liter on diesel. Now it brings us to the next question. Before I go to the last question, Professor Santosh Mehrotra, here's the problem of one nation, one price. State governments are bankrupt. They have not received the money that they should have received. Most of the cost actually of fighting coronavirus or COVID has been lifted by the state governments, because health is a state subject in many cases. They've been asking for money that they have not uniformly got. So for them also, petrol and diesel is going to seem like an easy hit to make that money. So not only the central government, but the state governments are not going to want to move it into GST because they'll be giving up a really easy source of revenue. Do you think state governments will ever agree, given the position they are in, which is worse than the central government? Professor Maro.
Under the current circumstances, they are most unlikely to agree. But there are deeper reasons why they are unlikely to agree. कि हालांकि बंसल साहब की बात मतलब सिद्धांतिक रूप पे तो सही है, मैं आपसे सहमत हूं, मगर दिक्कत ये है, दो दिक्कतें हैं। एक दिक्कत ये है बंसल साहब कि हमारा जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अरेंजमेंट है देश के फिस्कल अरेंजमेंट, उसमें केंद्र की पावर्स थोड़ी टैक्सेशन टैक्स रेवेन्यू जनरेट करने के लिए और एक्सपेंडिचर करने की ज्यादा है और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स की कम है, तो जिसकी वजह से एक बंदिश, एक सीमा आती है हमारी राज्य सरकारों पे, पहली चीज। दूसरी चीज, जीएसटी के संग ये खास दिक्कत है कि जीएसटी काउंसिल में का जो कॉम्पोजिशन है, वो कॉम्पोजिशन ऐसा है कि ऐसा नहीं है कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया चाहे जितनी मजबूत हो अपनी मनमानी करके अपनी बात मनवा लेगी, क्योंकि राज्य सरकारें उतनी आसानी से ढील नहीं देने वाली इस मामले में। और उसका कारण वही पहला कारण जो मैंने बताया कि उनके पास बहुत से सोर्सेज ऑफ रेवेन्यू नहीं है, जो इंडिपेंडेंट सोर्सेज हैं। एक स्पिरिट्स हैं, लिकर, और एक ये है जब मतलब अच्छा मजबूत सोर्स ऑफ इनकम, वरना तो छोटे मोटे और हैं। तो इसलिए ये उम्मीद करना इस स्थिति में कि ये जीएसटी में आ जाएगा, अभी तो भूल जाइए, काफी समय तक मुझे लगता है कि आप भूल जाइए। अच्छा, एक मुद्दा में I just want to sort of respond to an issue which you had come up earlier.
Yes.
That
See, if I wanted to add a point there.
Depreciating. The rupee is depreciating. Well, the rupee is depreciated only in the last 10 or 15 days. First of all, if anything, over the last 6 years that this government has been in power, the rupee has been appreciating in real terms. There's something which economists call the real effective exchange rate. The real effective exchange rate compares our inflation rate with the inflation rate of our trading partners. And while our inflation rate is relatively low, the fact of the matter is that the inflation rate of our competitive partners, from which our trading partners, is even lower. As a result of which, what has happened over the last 6 years is that real effective exchange rate has actually appreciated, not depreciated. As a result of which, it has become cheaper for us to import, and it has become more expensive. Sorry, it's become more expensive for us. It's become more expensive for us to export and cheaper for us to import, which is what the government wants to put a stop to. I'm almost certain, Faye, that the underlying objective of the government is in fact that the consumption of diesel and petrol is cut because it cannot bear the foreign exchange costs of oil, even though the price has dropped, because our exports are not going to rise. The global economy is collapsing all around us. Our exports are going to collapse. Our foreign exchange revenues are going to collapse, and we will, if we continue to import, we will have to run down our foreign exchange reserves in order to be able to import oil. So don't think that these decisions are that simple or uncomplicated, and the government's hands are not tied in every which way.
Well, let me
just add one point to the GST point which was raised. And
Go
actually,
ahead,
I've been raising this for the last 3 or 4 years since GST was introduced, that petrol and liquor should be introduced. And just one small example, you know, countries like Singapore have grown without taxes, and they have grown when there were zero taxes. So the governments, not only in India, but around the world, need to keep this in mind that, you know, taxes is not the way of creating income. it is actually inducing a structure, although Nirmala Sitharaman did try to do a tax portfolio system, which we proposed way back in 1989 through our research study, which was implemented by Government of India from then on. But then she introduced that portfolio approach. But the important thing here is that if we introduce these two components, especially petrol and diesel, into the GST, we will not see the economy rebound to the level which we are capable of, because that will reduce a large chunk of our cost component, and that will increase the profitability and the efficiency in the system. And I think the government should consider doing it. Like the gentleman just said, it's important and it should be done, but there is no government willing to take that big jump or a risk of the revenue loss which will happen, not knowing what will happen tomorrow, because they do not have anyone who has calibrated as to what could be done if we do not get this revenue and where would we get this revenue loss from. And that's where the trick is lying still. But in my opinion, it will not lead to losses. It will lead to increased revenue for the governments in due course.
Very interesting point. I just want to also at this point thank all of our viewers who are supporting us financially. Dips, Jagdish, Devaku, Manoranjan Kishore, Talent Gang, and Dhananjay, who have actually contributed to us financially during this debate. Thank you. It helps us keep the journalism independent. But Mr. Singh, I want to bring this back to you, and I want you to respond to what our guest from the Association of Petrol Dealers said, that there has to be either one price across the country, or diesel at least needs to be moved into GST and the price needs to be brought down. क्या आप भी मानते हैं कि ये होनी चाहिए कि डीजल को जीएसटी के अंदर लेके आनी चाहिए?
ये हमारी शुरू से मांग है, कई बरसों से हमने ये मांग रखी हुई है कि पहली बात तो देयर शुड बी अ यूनिफॉर्मिटी प्राइसेस ऑल अक्रॉस द कंट्री, और जो फ्यूल की कीमतें हैं वो क्वार्टरली रिव्यू होनी चाहिए और डीजल को जीएसटी के एम्बिट में लाना चाहिए। ये हमारी मांग हमने लिखित रूप में सरकार को कई वर्षों से दे रखी है कि जीएसटी को तुरंत डीजल को सरकार ने जीएसटी के एम्बिट में लाना चाहिए। इसके बारे में हमारी कई बार चर्चा भी हुई है। जैसे बंसल जी ने कहा है कि देखेंगे करेंगे, वही होते जा रहा है, लेकिन वास्तविक में कुछ नहीं हो रहा है।
मिस्टर सिंह, एक आपके लिए एक सवाल है। आदित्य हजारिका ने सवाल पूछा है। उनका कहना है कि कैन वी इंट्रोड्यूस अ सब्सिडी फॉर ट्रांसपोर्टर्स ऑन द लाइंस ऑफ द उज्ज्वला स्कीम, कि थोड़ी ऐसे ट्रांसपोर्टर्स जिनके लिए कुछ सब्सिडाइज किया जा सके। डू यू थिंक दैट माइट बी अ सॉल्यूशन?
बिल्कुल, जैसे फार्मर्स को सब्सिडी दी जाती है, इस तरह ट्रांसपोर्टर को भी कोई स्कीम निकालनी चाहिए जिसमें सब्सिडाइज डीजल देना चाहिए, जिससे कि जो हमारी लागत है कम हो, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन की लागत कम हो, और जो रोज रोज की जो वस्तुएं हैं उनकी भी कीमत कम हो। ये अच्छा, सरकार ने इसके बारे में सोच विचार करना चाहिए।
Professor Malhotra, is that something that might be possible, or will that actually lead in us creating another price altogether, another bracket and a slab within a slab?
Create what? Sorry, what is possible? Say, sorry.
To offer a subsidy only for transporters on fuel prices.
Very unlikely. To be realistic, honestly, the best way forward, with all due respect to Malkit Singh ji's suggestion, the best way forward is that we genuinely have a fiscal stimulus. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, that 12 years ago, when we faced a global economic crisis, there was a fiscal stimulus of 3 to 4% of GDP. Now we have a economic crisis which is unprecedented in the history of the world and the history of our country. And we have a fiscal stimulus of 1% of GDP. What does this say? It says there are people in government who don't understand macroeconomics 101. I'm sorry, I will not say any more.
Right, we're going to leave that there. I want to thank my panelists for being very generous with your time. It was a riveting discussion as always. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being so open and candid with your thoughts as well. For our viewers who have tuned in, thank you for supporting us night after night. And I'm glad you appreciate the format that we're using. Our aim is to bring you conversations that help you understand each topic a little better. I think that what we've understood, and unanimous across the panel, was that the government needs to rationalize the taxes on fuel. You can't have it both ways. Either you choose to match the global prices, in which case it has to go down when global prices are going down, or you choose to, to manipulate the rate based on taxes. But you can't have it both ways. Whereas when the price goes down globally, our price stays up. When the price stays up globally, our price goes even higher. So there's just absolutely no relief at all for the citizen. And especially at a time like this, while the government might be looking at its own coffers, it needs to look at the coffers of the average Indian citizen who, I keep saying, has been shoved back into poverty in the last 3 months. People have not earned, people have not eaten. That hungry children takes precedence and priority over everything else. Whether that's your fiscal deficit or your foreign exchange deficit, whatever it is, hungry children takes precedence, because if we allow an entire generation of Indian children not to be fed properly, we will be condemning ourselves to a lifetime of poverty, because they will never grow enough to compete with the rest of the world. It's as simple as that. We should prioritize the poor. We should prioritize poor children. We should prioritize food. We should prioritize money in their pockets so that they can be fed. Everything else comes after that. And unfortunately, we don't know where that is right now on the priority list of our government. Thank you all for listening. Good night.